I have to start by reading this out. I am obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concerns should raise them now. Right, thank you. We go to the agenda. The first item is apologies for absence, and Robert Macy and Steve Davenport have given their apologies. Item 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. Nick?
In my twin hat role with Shrewsbury Town Council, I actually sit on the Youth Services Committee, so for item 9 I will leave the room.
Okay, right. Item 3, the minutes, which came as a separate document, and I think Roger wanted to just query some of them.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not a member of the committee, but I note on page 5 of the minutes, under the robustness of estimates and adequacy of reserves, 151, there is a reference there in the second paragraph querying members' query regarding the number of staff redundancies. This was specifically about compulsory redundancies. It was nothing to do with voluntary redundancies. It was specifically about compulsory, and I've looked at the video on it, and it is there in about 20 minutes into the last cabinet, which is there, and asking about the number of compulsory redundancies which were and are in the process and will take place before the end of March. So that minute there, I would ask if it could be looked at again.
Okay, the officers seem quite content that they'll take that on board. Right, item 4, public question time. Anything? No. Item 5, member questions. I believe there is a member question. Do you want to?
I would like to ask a supplementary, if that's in order. I think you've said the answer to my question has been circulated to members of the committee, and my grateful thanks for that. But I'd like to question, particularly on the task and finish group, which was presented to this cabinet on the 18th of October. It made clear that the grant for proposed funding for Shrewsbury should be 45,000 for youth funding. And in the report which you've got today, under paragraph 6.1, it makes clear that Town Council within these areas, referring to Shrewsbury, previously indicated that they will consider financially supporting youth activity. Notice that they will consider. In the report, in answer to my question, it says in the final paragraph, final response, second to last line, the large town councils, particularly Shrewsbury and Oswestry, can now discuss whether they are in a position to financially support activity in their areas. And I would argue that in actual fact what's happened here is that a substantial cut has been made in youth funding to Shrewsbury without proper consultation. And that the council should have been better informed, and in fact, you know, it's been a significant reduction without proper consultation, and will cause concern and be difficult for the town council to resolve the continuation funding. And I'd like a response to that.
I believe the portfolio holders want to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. We had a lengthy period of consultation. I was invited to a number of LJCs, youth clubs, and so on. I accepted every invitation I received. I did not get a request from Shrewsbury Town Council to come and talk to them. If I had, I would certainly have accepted it. I I'm not sure what else we could do. We had a good response over a lengthy period. By and large, it was the rural areas that invited me, and it was the rural areas that responded in the way that they did. So I think it is reasonable that this report should be framed in the way that it is, reflecting the result of the consultation.
Okay, thank you. Right, we move on. Item 6, scrutiny items, but I don't think there's anything from scrutiny this time, is there? No. Item 7, quarter 3 performance report. Councillor Steve Chalmers.
Thank you, Leader. A regular item on Cabinet, the performance report. I won't go into any details, but just pull out a few facts and figures from the report, which are always of interest to members. Delighted to see Shrewsbury Museum visitor numbers up by almost 6,000 on the same stage last year. Theatre 7 and the Old Market Hall numbers also increasing on last year's figures, up almost 3%. And interesting to note that Theatre 7 is now drawing over a third of its visitors from outside the county, so really positive on the economic growth and tourism front. Members will be noting that the satisfaction with highways has dropped slightly, which is probably down to the inclement weather over winter and the rash of complaints we get this time of year. Obviously those will be being addressed in the next few months as the days lengthen and the days also warm up hopefully, and give an opportunity for our contractors to get out on the ground. So with that, I move the report.
Okay, I'm quite happy to second. Any comments from anyone? The only thing I would say is every time I try and go get tickets to the Old Market Hall, I can never get in the place because it's always heaving.
Book early.
I think I am booking early, but I'm obviously not early enough. But it is a real success. But yeah, no, it's a good report, and yeah, so everyone's happy. Right, Roger. Oh, Rod, sorry, I didn't see you, Roger.
Can I share your and sympathise with you over the Old Market Hall? I never managed to get in there either. Even a fortnight, 3 weeks beforehand. It's gone, so it is immensely popular. Question, Chairman. I note that on page 4, which is 7.3, that the average wages for people working in Shropshire, the work-based wages, were £80 a week less than the West Midlands and the Great Britain. £470 per week against the £552 per week, which is a terrific difference.
That's on the national figure.
That's on that, yeah. But I know that people from Shropshire go outside to work, maybe Birmingham, and it improves, but it shows where the wage economy of Shropshire is. And that really is the, and the question about the market hall in that paragraph that the Cabinet member referred to, have the increased footfall to the information centre been included in the numbers which visit the museum? No.
Right.
Separate counter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to come back on 7.3 because I also looked at the figures, but I would like to refer Roger to the economic growth strategy and the detail within that, and how we're looking at the sectors that are responsible for skewing these figures. And when we say that Shropshire is open for business and we want to grow the economy, we're very mindful, and if you read the document in full, you'll see, we want to grow the sectors that will make these figures better. And there's a great deal of work going on within economic growth around supporting improvements of those.
Leslie?
I'm sorry, just to say, Leader and Councillor Evans, that I'm becoming a friend of the Old Market Hall and the theatre, so it does actually allow you to book early.
I will know, Chairman.
I will try and do that, yes.
Thank you so much.
And actually on 7.3, it's quite interesting because as I go around the town councils and I give my little spiel to start with, the one thing I make clear everywhere is I don't consider this an unemployment problem in Shropshire, but what I call a poor employment problem. There are too many salaries and wages that are on minimum, and we have got up to the skills factor in Shropshire. and that will be the key to getting a better average wage. So, and it's something we're trying to address. We're actively on the case. Right, thank you on that one. So everyone agree with the report? Yep. Right, thank you. So item 8, amendment to the discretionary housing payment policy. I'm never quite clear why, but this is with Steve again.
Thank you, Leader. It's a great title, this one, isn't it? The paper just sets out changes to reflect universal credit now coming into play as opposed to just housing benefit. There's no actual policy changes, it's just wording to reflect that change on where we are and make it appropriate for the council to have this policy. So I think that's what I can say. I'll move, Leader.
Okay. Again, happy to second. Or so, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. I note this and understand the reasons for it. But recently we had a task in Finnish Group and it came here and the Cabinet made a decision to charge everyone at least 20% council tax unless you're a pensioner or you're a disabled person. I can't see any mention of the word 20% council tax in the effect. I can see council, I can see rents, I can see all the rest of it. But as far as the 20% council tax, there were, my understanding is that they were saying that this would actually help those who are in arrears and having problems meeting their costs because of this 20% would be looked at and it could be assisted by it. I can't see anything anywhere in the amendment which would do it. Can we take that as read, that it is included in it or not? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure of the answer, but yeah, James.
I suppose the quick answer is the policy applies to housing payments, and that's what it's applicable for. What we were talking about within the Task and Finish Group is that there may be instances where people, because of the 20% council tax support changes, their overall position has changed, and therefore by applying more funding through the discretionary housing payments, that would help sort that out. We can't use it for council tax support, we use it holistically within housing benefits. So the policy is correct as it stands, but we were looking at the whole picture rather than just trying to focus just on the council tax support.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that if they are unable to pay their rent because of this extra cost that's been put on them, it could well assist that way in doing it.
You can find ways.
Yes. Okay. And are we returning any of this to the back to the government at the end? Is it anticipated at the end of this financial year?
Unfortunately, at this point in time, it's looking like we will for this current financial year. Obviously, there is an opportunity to use some of that DHP funding that is not been allocated yet before the end of March. So we'll be looking to do that. But it's likely that there will be funds that go back this financial year. What we were talking about was really the 18-19 financial year and using that surplus for the purposes you talked about as a council tax support.
Last one, Chairman. So how much, yeah, and I understand the 20% tax isn't until the next financial year. So how much did we get this year and how much are we sending back, please?
I haven't got those figures off the top of my head, unfortunately, but it's in the it's a couple £100,000 that would be going back on stands at the moment, but I need to confirm. It's a significant.
Can we do as much as we can to make sure we retain as much as we can within Shropshire? Right. Okay. Anything else on that item, or we all agreeable to the report? Can I see all those in favour then, please? Right. Thank you. Item 9, local commission of youth activities, proposal for changes to the funding. Nick.
Thank you, Leader. I don't want to cover too much of the ground that we covered in the question. There was a very extensive and thorough consultation which ended a couple of months ago at the beginning of January. A lot of individual responses, but also youth groups, LJCs, town and parish councils. And the response was overwhelmingly that the council should continue funding youth activities in rural areas. I attended some of those meetings myself, and that was certainly the feeling that I was getting. As I said a moment ago, I accepted every invitation I had, and I'm sorry I didn't get more invitations, to be honest. I would have been very happy to have met more people than I did, but I met a lot. A particularly lively meeting in Councillor Roger Evans' area, with a great many parish councils there, and you know, a lengthy and thorough discussion of the proposals. So unashamedly, this report reflects the result of the consultation. We've taken on board what people have said to us, and if you look at the figures, it's pretty overwhelming that the rural areas should get, you know, a decent share of what is, you know, not a very large cake. There is one mistake in some versions of the report. I think the more recent ones have the correct figure in the table towards the end of the report for Wem and Shawbury. Earlier ones have the figure of £4,000. In the third or the final column, it should actually be £8,000. And Councillor Chris Mannix has particularly asked that that be drawn to Cabinet's attention. As I say, I think people who got the report in the last day or two got the correct figure. I had the wrong figure in my report, and I think one or two other people did, but the correct figure is £8,000. There is a reduction in funding for Shrewsbury, for Oswestry, for Market Drayton, and in the way these things go, you know, the timing isn't perfect, and I appreciate that whilst every town and parish council was aware of the proposals well before Christmas, well before precept setting time, nonetheless one or two have already set their precept before this meeting today, Leader. So there is a reduction in funding for the larger market towns. So far as the rural areas are concerned, there is a proposal to have a centrally held pot that groups and clubs can bid into. I can't tell you today exactly how that's going to work, but it seems to me to be a sensible proposal, and as soon as I've had further discussions with officers, we will let everybody know exactly how that's going to work. In the meanwhile, Leader, I would like to move the recommendations in paragraph 2, that's A, B, C and D.
Okay, and just so for clarity, it talks about, as detailed in 5.9 of the report, which gives the actual details of who's getting what. And that reflects what we said at Cabinet, well, was it November when it first came forward? And whilst I hear what Councillor Valsmere was saying earlier, the discussion then was about the fact that the larger towns, by the way they're geared, are more able to raise money more easily than some of the very rural parishes, and that's the reality. And most of the town councils are aware that this is going on and have actually accommodated it within their precept and their budget for next year. So it's not a shock to any of them. They do know where they're going with this, and it is happening. Madge did indicate, I don't know whether you want to...
Yes, I just very briefly, Chairman, I wanted to welcome this, it's coming from a very rural area, because I do think it makes it clear to the rural parts that there is equity and that our young people have an important role to play as well. The method of how you're going to distribute your 30,000 or whatever the final total is, all I would ask you is that please don't go down the European line and make it too complex, because it would be quite helpful if I chair a youth partnership group for Privy. It's 8 parishes surrounding it, and it would be helpful if the application form was fairly straightforward. I think we'd all find that quite helpful. It does allow us, if we have some seed corn, to lever in extra outside funds, and indeed our partnership has levered in just under £10,000 this last year to assist with programmes that different groups are doing, Scouts, Guides, Irish Youth Partnership, or whatever it is. And one of our big problems in the rural areas, of course, is transport. And to hire a minibus and a driver, and you can't always find a volunteer driver that's got all the right assets, etc., so you have to pay for a driver, is the biggest cost if we're going to actually take them out and show them something else. So can I just say thank you very much and welcome it, and hope you'll all agree. Thank you, Chair.
I think it does show we do listen, you know. I know it's always said we don't, but we have listened to the various arguments and consultation. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we did welcome and I'm obliged to the Cabinet member for actually coming to Hanwood, where myself and my other two councillors from the area took advantage to make the case. It has been listened to, and I know the youth areas in my area, all our areas, for the London, Lowton, where on the LJC will be great for it, and glad he was listening. But 6.2, should any specific local challenges arise? I'm not sure what that means or how that can be challenged or whatever. What does that actually mean, please? Can it be expanded on?
We don't know what the future holds, and if something different happens, we will try and deal with it as it crops up.
So, if anybody did have a local challenge arise or an impact, there may be some assistance provided to them, financial assistance.
I'm not going to
That's
say
what I-
that. It's a very open question, and I wouldn't like to say that. We're open-minded.
Well,
I think what the report does do, though, it does reflect what the debate that took place in November about shifting, you know, to the very rural areas, some of this funding, acknowledging what Madge is saying about we do accept it can be more difficult. And also part of that discussion was about the gearing of town councils, because some of the big town councils in Shropshire are sitting on millions of pounds of money, whereas some of the very small parishes haven't got anything. And, you know, so there is a difference in the way funding works. And to be fair to the town councils, mostly they've acknowledged that, and they do recognise the shift of the way funding will have to happen in the future for some of these youth activities. And it's just how we get there. Yeah. But I think the report is an excellent report. It is acknowledging all that's gone on in the past and showing we're listening to the consultation. And I'm happy to second it, and yeah, I mean, I'll ask for comments or its approval. Right, all those in favour, please show. Right, that's clearly passed. Right, thank you. Then that was it. Right, thank you. That's the business.